The 90s were a unique time in history where people were slowly transitioning into the digital age. We'll be the last generation to grow up without smartphones, which means more simple things could be enjoyed.
It's time to reminisce of what life was like during that time and take a look at things millennials miss the most about the 90s.
Number 17. Where's Waldo? As kids growing up in the 90s, you didn't always need a book with writing in order to enjoy it. You could simply open up a Where's Waldo book and spend countless hours trying to find him. He could really be anywhere on the pages, but he'll always be wearing that red hat and glasses. Each hunt for Waldo was unique in a sense, and you can really tell it required a lot of artwork and creativity by the illustrator. His popularity continued into the new millennium, but not to the same extent. In modern times, there's a Google Maps version of this game which is set on a global scale. Do you think you can still find him? Number 16. Not so smartphones. Do you remember back in the day where you had to take a small brick phone with you, wait to use the next payphone, or even be subjected to using a landline? It almost sounds like the apocalypse. But it almost seems as though we would have been better off using more simple technology and relying on personal tracking devices to communicate. No one could have possibly imagined in the 1990s how advanced cell phone technology would have came within the next 20 years or so. Back during the 90s, it was even possible to pull off prank phone calls because no one had caller ID to the same extent. Number 15. TRL. Who can forget big-time 90s stars like Britney Spears, NSYNC, the Backstreet Boys, Christina Aguilera, and so on? Many stars ought to thank some of their success to the TV show called TRL, which was a daily countdown of the popular music videos in the 1990s. Music videos during this time were much more appreciated than they were nowadays, and had much more effort than we see now. Would your favorite song make it to the top 10 and get featured on the show? The Carson Daly era during the late 1990s reached its peak, and once he was gone, the show seemingly was unwatchable. Carson says the show's failure didn't really have much to do with him leaving it, as it did with times changing with social media becoming more popular. Number 14. Gigapets. If your friend ever accidentally left their Gigapet at your house, you had a serious responsibility to take care of. The digital pets became all the rage in 1997, which almost would have been the prelude to AI taking over. How else were you supposed to take care of a baby T-Rex though? It also taught kids growing up that if you didn't pay attention to something, it could expire, and also would teach them traditional values. It coined the term the Tamagotchi effect, which means the development of emotional attachment with machines, robots, or software. People would even suffer from emotional distress if they forgot to feed their pet and then went to Tamagotchi heaven. Number 13. Nickelodeon Shows. If millennials miss anything about television when they were growing up, they tend to miss the originality and the humor of Nickelodeon and hoping that someday they get a chance to visit the studios in Orlando, Florida to get slimed on. Cartoons like the Rugrats debuted in 1991, with other popular shows such as Ren and Stimpy and Hey Arnold being debuted later on in the 90s. There was just something relatable to many characters, and even adults would tune in to watch. Shows on TV like All That and The Amanda Show were a little bit outlandish, but still less filtered than much of today's content for kids. Number 12. Nintendo 64. If you grew up with a Nintendo 64, then you might have had a good childhood during the 1990s. This was only the third home console. It was named after its 64-bit central processing unit, which was pretty advanced when it was released in 1996. Back in the day when games needed cartridges, the Nintendo 64 seemingly mastered the technology. Various colors were made available, which only sparked its appeal. New games could cost us as low as $10 each, and players could enjoy duking it out with up to 4 different players each, something other consoles couldn't offer. Games such as GoldenEye were among some of the best trend-setting games that other companies would try to copy. In the long run though, many felt as though the system was far too slow and complex to keep up with the new competition. Due to the rapid decline of cartridge games, N64 sales plummeted as well, and they still managed to sell quite a few of them to those who grew attached to the console growing up. Number 11. Gameboy. Considered to be the third best-selling system ever sold, Game Boys definitely deserve a place on this list. This device helped make some of the vintage games popular during the 1990s. Now you could game wherever you go. It was basically like the Walkman of video consoles, and they were developed by Nintendo's research and development crew in Japan. You can make your choice to buy it with games such as Tetris, or just on its own if you want to choose the games. When the game was able to display color around the year 1998, many were sold, and between the original and the Game Boy Color alone, they sold over 118 million units. Nintendo was a force to reckon with for portable game systems, and no competitors stood in their way. Some of the Pokemon games can still be worth a decent amount of money, so if you got your collection somehow, don't throw it away just yet. Number 10. Blockbuster. It seems like in modern times, the only time you'll see a Blockbuster is during an archaeological excavation. There's currently only one Blockbuster out there, and it's located in Bend, Oregon, where people must be stuck in the Stone Age. While streaming has obviously brought an end to the video store, there used to be a time when you rented a video, real-life people would actually recommend it to you instead of an algorithm. You'd make a painstaking decision about which video game you wanted to rent and spend a few moments of your day outside your bedroom before you're able to watch the next show. Were you that rogue kid who learned about the birds and the bees by wandering off into the adult section? Kids in modern times will never understand. What do you guys think is best, Blockbuster or Netflix? Let us know in the comments section and maybe we'll feature you in an upcoming video. Number 9. Sonic the Hedgehog. It turns out that Sonic the Hedgehog looks nothing like a real hedgehog. He's portrayed as blue, collects rings, and can move at high speeds, and fights evil. He was developed by Sega in 1991 and has been a hit ever since, selling 80 million copies of all games in 25 years. This was during the 16-bit era where things were slightly more advanced than what was out there during the 80s. Like many other video game superstars, Sonic went into other media and was able to achieve the longest-running comic book based on a video game. In any case, it's a very family-friendly game with good storylines, which helped it sell in large quantities. Number 8. The Furby. The Furby was an owl hamster-like creature that was a must-buy product in 1998. Nearly 2 million of these were sold that year, and it was downright creepy. It was capable of understanding 24 languages, while its native tongue was Furbish, an imaginary language. Furbies almost seemed like they had a mind of their own, and the US government even claimed that they were used as spying devices. Furbies tried to make a comeback in 2016 with a new Pink Connect Furby that you see in this photo, and they were expected to be a hot item in Christmas. It turns out to have over 1,000 facial expressions. Only time will tell if you can survive the Furby invasion. Number 7. Street Sharks. Any 90s kids remember growing up with these back in the day? The Street Sharks are humanoid sharks wearing cowboy boots that ride motorcycles and most likely abuse performance-enhancing substances. Looking back on it, they're rather strange, and it's pretty weird our parents let us play with these. They can still reach a price of $40 on eBay too. Gidget the Chihuahua. Don't you wish your dog could be the star of commercials and bring you in a boatload of cash? Probably one of the most famous dogs out there in the world would be Gidget the Chihuahua. She was born in 1994 and will forever be remembered as a legend. Taco Bell aired many popular commercials with Gidget during her career when she would say the infamous line, "Yo quiero Taco Bell." The little pup became an international superstar and many toys were made in her honor. She was later replaced with a different ad campaign in 2000. She also had some very different catchphrases like, "Drop the Chalupa" and "Viva Gorditas." She even appeared in a movie, Legally Blonde 2, Red, White, and Blonde, as Bruiser's mom. Number 5. The Rock. The Rock's career didn't take off until 1996, when he became the Intercontinental Champion with the nickname of Rocky Maivia. This was a combination of his grandfather and his father's ring name. He got the nickname as the Blue Chipper during his early years of WWF, and we all remember that. He beat the wrestler known as Bret the Hitman Hart by disqualification, which would earn him his cool belt. He wasn't well liked by the fans early on either, and played more of an antagonist role. Anyone else out there miss The Rock's early days in the 1990s? Number 4. Beanie Babies. At one point in time, 10% of all sales on eBay were Beanie Babies, and these 90s fads brought in some serious cash for the creator, Ty Warner. They were a collectible stuffed animal that was all the rage, and many people out there were convinced that they would be worth a lot of cash someday in the future. It was so serious that taking the tag off of a Beanie Baby was almost an unforgivable sin. The sad thing is that even the Princess Diana stuffed bear is still essentially worthless. There's only one Beanie Baby out there that's worth a decent amount of money, which is the blue elephant, which might sell for $1.5K. The craze would eventually die down though, to the point where Beanie Babies would never make a comeback. The best-selling Beanie Babies would typically have some kind of manufacturing defect to them nowadays. Number 3. The Super Soaker. Do you remember back in the day when it was okay to play with things that resembled firearms? You could play around in the streets with things like Super Soakers and not have to worry about police mistaking it for some kind of automatic weapon. Super Soaker and even Nerf technology seemed to be pretty advanced back in the 1990s, but now that the kids have smartphones and other ways to amuse themselves, playing around on the street seems like a laughable activity. Trying to convince your kids on to play Fortnite online and go outside and play with a Super Soaker doesn't even seem possible anymore. A vintage Super Soaker can still be worth a decent amount of money in modern times, selling for as much as $500 in 2016. Number 2. A Slip and Slide. Slip and slides used to be all the rage back in the 1990s, and if you didn't have one in your backyard, you were seriously missing out on some fun. Typically, you would slip and slide all day with your friends until someone got hurt and your parents took it down. Although it tended to kill all the grass that was used under it, everyone was looking forward to it being summer so they can pull out the slip and slide. Back in the time where lawsuits didn't ruin everything for everyone and Toys R Us was still around, slip and slides reigned supreme as affordable summer activities. And number 1, Crazy Bones. You might remember the Crazy Bones fad if you're growing up in the 1990s. A Spanish company called Magic Box Inc. created little plastic molds of strange faces that you would essentially try to knock over using plastic molds. But it turns out this game actually dates back to ancient Roman and Greek times, but instead of using plastic, they would actually use sheep knuckle bones. This is how the game got its name, Crazy Bones. The product was aggressively marketed towards children, but each one seemed to be a little bit spooky in its own unique way.